it's Ginger from Stamping the Cape, and I'm here with my July Stamp Club projects. Summer is officially here on Cape Cod. It's hot and it's humid, so I'm trying to get these videos recorded as quickly as possible before I melt. So I'm featuring this month Grandma's House, the Grandma's House Cling Stamp Set, which I showed a project earlier for my In Color Club card that I made using this set. It's really cute. It's perfect for if you're a grandmother, if you're a grandchild, or you know, someone who's expecting and wants to give cards to a grandmother or projects or whatever. But it's really kind of cute. I like it a lot. So the projects I've got for you is this little box, and I'm using the sentiment, "No one loves like a grandma." And when you open it up, there's a grandma's cookie on the inside, but and it says, "And this grandma sure loves you." But this might be a cute little thing if you actually bake cookies with your grandchild when they come for a visit or something, and you could send them home with, you know, a little cookie of your own that you guys have made together, which would be really sweet. Put them in a little cello bag or a little you know, plastic bag or something. But anyway, so that's the first project, and then the second project is this little triangular box, and it says, "Congratulations on the birth of your new your beautiful new grandbaby." And when you open it up, I thought it was kind of a funny gift to give to a friend who might be having their first grandchild or whatever, because you never know when you're going to need to have a cleanup. I know when my granddaughter was an infant, she did a lot of spit ups, and you might need to do some touch ups, or as the baby food comes along, you know, you might want to be prepared. But anyway, I thought that was kind of a fun, cute little gift to give, just as a you know, a fun thing. But anyway, so that's my second project, and then you could accompany it with this card that says, "Every time a baby is born, so is a grandma," which is true. And I, unfortunately, well, yeah, unfortunately, I guess, when I found out I was going to be a grandmother, I went to it kicking and screaming because I just felt I wasn't ready. I don't know, I think of grandmothers as being older, and that's kind of my theme of these projects. I'm using the Woven Threads Designer Series paper, and this paper kind of called out to me. I've done quilting, and there's a series of fabrics, they call them like 1930s fabrics, and this reminded me of that, and it reminded me of a grandmother's, you know, an older grandmother's, like my grandmother's apron, with the little woven thread, woven ribbon that they have, and you know, the patterns from the woven threads. This is another pattern. It just kind of reminded me of the whole vintagey kind of thing. So anyway, let's get started. Enough yakety yak. I'm going to start with the box, and again, there'll be a PDF on my blog with all the measurements and whatnot for these projects. And I'm starting, this is two pieces of, this is Highland Heather. I would have used the Purple Posy, but unfortunately the inks aren't available. I am going to use the blends, but I just don't want to use too much that you might, you know, you're not going to be able to order right away. So what I've done is I've scored it at 1 1/8 inch on all four sides. And like I said, there'll be a PDF on my blog for this. So I'm going to burnish the score lines first, and I usually fold not where the crease of the score is. I do on the convex side, not the concave side, but where the bump is. I found out that I always used to do it the other way, and I found out that if you have cardstock, it tends not to crack or, you know, get fuzzy if you fold it this way towards the convex side. So that's what I'm doing real quick. Now in this box, you'll notice when I show you the sample again that the ends, the little flaps on the ends of the lid kind of wing out a little bit. And that is because I haven't made any adjustments. Normally when you make a box, you make the lid like a 1/16 wider so it fits over. But as you can see, these kind of stick out, and if that bothers you, you could always tie with a ribbon instead of, you know, if you make a box like this, you could put a ribbon around it to hold the sides in. But that's simply because these two boxes are the same width. But if you have a tool, there's a tool that's made by Connie Stewart, and if you have a scoring board, you can probably do one piece where you inch it over like about 1/16 on either side, and it will just give you enough width so it's not going to give you that little wingy part. But I decided it was good enough the way it is, and I'm not going to go crazy on you with 1/16. So, but if you're that kind of person, you can figure that out. I know even the 1/8 marks, some people have difficulty with. So what I'm going to do is on one end, now this piece measures, I think it's 6 1/4 by 6 3/4, but the measurements are on my blog. Let me see, is that, yeah, 6 1/4 by 6 3/4, and so you want to make sure you've got the 6 3/4 length this way, because this is how the lid is going to go on. And I'm going to cut off these two corner squares, and I cut off the score lines because I don't like seeing those little bumpy pieces on my projects. So I'm going to cut those two off, and then we're just going to cut these score lines up to the horizontal. So we're making flaps here. And I'm going to angle, I'm going to cut straight next to that score line so I can cut that off. And I'm just going to angle these a little bit on this side. You don't have to be super accurate. It just makes the box go together a little bit better. And we get to cut off those bumpy pieces all together. Okay, there's one. And I'm just going to speed through. This is going to be the same thing, other than that we're not going to be cutting off the end. But I'm just going to speed through this one. Get rid of all these little pieces. All right. Oh, here we go with the all right again. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to assemble our front of the box first. And so you want to keep this piece is going to be the back. This kind of connects to the other piece. So we're going to work in this direction. And I've got a piece of Night of Navy, which measures 3 3/4 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to emboss this actually first with, I'm using the stitched label dies, and there's a piece in the die that actually this embosses, it doesn't cut out, so it sort of looks like a little quilted blanket when you get done with it. So that's the piece I'm using for this. So I'm just gonna, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it at the top edge and the bottom, to the two edges. Whoop. So hopefully that's all in the shot here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna place it here. I want to get as much coverage of that corner. You're not going to see a lot of it, but I want to just make sure I've got a nice long edge covered. And then we'll do the other side, is right down here. And I'll show you how that creates that pretty little, like an old-fashioned quilted blanket, which again, vintage old grandma, not young grandma. Okay. Put that away for the moment. And so hopefully you can see how that gives that nice little texture to the piece. And so I'm going to just attach that on with some snail. Actually, what I'm going to do first, before I do that, actually, I'm going to put this unit together, because when I put the ribbon on, I want to be able to snip it off. So let's not go that way. I've got a piece of, this is the Woven Threads Designer Series paper, and this measures 3 by 3.5. And I'm just going to attach that. I'm just leaving a little bit of a border, even border around the edge. Hopefully I get it straight. If you want to use, you know, your Tombow liquid glue, that way you get to align it perfectly. So I've got like a 4-inch piece of the woven thread ribbon, and this is really nifty because you pull on these little threads at the bottom, and it will just give you your little woven fringe at the bottom. I mean, you could leave it that way if you wanted to, but I think this is kind of fun, so you get to take that off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tear and tape right along the back edge, because that way I don't have to worry about anything unraveling. I did this on on the ribbon on the in color cards, and it just secures it, I think, a little bit more. You don't have to deal with, you know, goopy liquid glue seeping through. So this just gives you a nice solid surface to work with. I'm just going to really rub that down. And again, this sort of reminded me of, you know, Grandma's apron kind of thing. So hopefully I've got this. And you want to, when you're using tear and tape, especially on a fabric piece like this, you want to really make sure you've got it stuck down, because otherwise you have a little bit of difficulty getting your protective piece off. But there we go. And I have no fingernails, so it makes it even worse for me to try to grab things. But I can't work with fingernails, so there we go. All right. Oh, here we go with the all rights again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick this right sort of on the very, almost on the, I'm putting this piece on the edge of that Designer Series paper. So and I'm going to try to keep it straight. I can maneuver my ribbon as I go, because it might bend a little. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess on the edges. Oh, I can feel the humidity. It's very early in the morning, but I can feel the humidity starting to, it's been building, and we're supposed to get rain today, so. But I'm not a good summer person. I just don't do well in the heat and humidity. I do have some air conditioners that I'll probably put on later, but you'd never hear me if I had them on, if I had one on in my craft room. So, okay, so now we can put this down. And again, I'm just using snail. You could use the liquid glue, except if you do use the liquid glue on this particular piece, you might want to be careful, because some of the holes may poke through, and you don't want to have glue oozing out the edge. You can hear the birds. I have the window open, so you can hear maybe hear the birds chirping. All right, there's that piece. And now I'm going to die cut, I'm going to stamp, well, first of all, I'm going to die cut my little background and my little hearts, again using the Stitch Labels dies. So I'm using that pretty little piece, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment so I can get that done, and my inside piece, oops, and my little hearts. And so what I'm going to do is I've got one big piece of 3, I think it's just 3 by 8.5. And so if you place your pieces down like this, you should be able to get everything on that you need. So this piece will go here. My sentiment can go down here, and then my house can go there. So let me stamp those pieces. And we really only need, on the house, we really only need the centerpiece, but I'm just going to stamp the whole thing just for the ease of stamping. So that's going to go there. Close my ink pad so I don't have an accident. Oh wait, I have more stamping to do. I can't do that. So let's see. Got my No One Loves Like a Grandma, and that's gonna go right. Actually, you could stamp right inside here if you want to make sure it's gonna fit. You're just gonna die cut that out afterwards anyway, and that way you know, like on this piece where it's going to be a circle, you can make sure you get your, everything's going to fit in there. I'm sticking to the paper. Oh, that's what I was afraid of. All right, I'm going to, oh, stop saying all right. Gee. I will cut out my little hearts. I should have one more piece. All right. Ah. We go with the all right. I'm gonna go grab a scrap of my Highland Heather cardstock so I can cut out the little hearts. So let me move this aside, and again bring my Big Shot in. Okay. So let's cut. Or we can cut our lacy piece and do our sentiment and our circle, and I can start with one heart. Okay. I'm going to run it back one more time just to make sure I get those little pieces of that lacy label piece fully cut out. Ooh, I need to cut out 2 more hearts. Let me do that and I'll get right back to you. Here, I have all my pieces cut out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to color my little house, and I am using the Purple Posy blends, the light and the dark, and I'm using the Dark Night of Navy to go with the background. So I'm starting off with my light Purple Posy, and since there were tight areas, I like to use the pointy end. It depends on your preference as to, you know, what you can control or what you feel comfortable with. But I just feel I can just wash the color over, and when I do blends, I don't worry the first time about getting every bit of white covered, because you are going to be layering the colors, and so you have an opportunity to go back in and fill in colors afterwards. So I'm going to fill the inside of that heart because we're going to do some shadowing, and I'm just going to go over each of these. I'm trying to keep the lines clean. It may not work out, but, and it's interesting, Purple Posy, when it first comes out, it looks like it's almost pinkish rather than a purple. So I found that kind of, I was like, oh, is this the wrong color? But it's almost like a pinky purpley shade that comes out, but it's rather pretty. So let's see, what was I doing? Okay, so what I'm doing on the heart is I'm just doing the inside with the dark, and I'm leaving kind of a little bit of a light color on the outside, and then I'll be highlighting around the outer edge. because I'm going to blend that in. And then every other row of the roof line, I'm going in with the dark purple posy, just to give it a little contrast in the roof ridge. I'm also doing with purple posy, the dark. And we're going to have to cut this house out by hand. There aren't any dies that go with this step, but that's okay because it's all straight lines, so it'll be fine. So now I'm going to go in and do some blending. And I got to very carefully do the door and the chimney. That's the tricky part. My blend, for some reason, this one seems to be really wet, so the color is really rich. So I'm trying to stay away from my open lines there. Just putting a dot because it's bleeding over, which is what alcohol ink does. It does spread, so I don't want it to, if possible, go too far. All right, there we go. All right. So I'm just going to cut out this house. Real simple. It's straight lines, so it's really easy to do. There, so now we can start putting this all together. So as I said, you're going to put your bottom of your box together first, and I'm using tear and tape. You need to use some type of strong adhesive, so you're going to need tear and tape or the liquid glue, because it's not going to hold, your snail won't hold your box together. If you still happen to have some of our retired oh golly, fast fuse, that will work. But either tear and tape or Tombow, you want to make sure that your box doesn't just fall apart. Then for this piece, you're going to turn it over, and I'm going to be putting tear and tape on this edge. Again, you can use your Tombow, but I'm putting it, excuse me, close to the score line. And because I want it close to that edge. And I'm going to put one more piece down here just to secure that really well. There. And then we're going to be doing the same thing on these. Tear and tape on right near the score line. And the one piece over here. Takes care of that. So let's put our bottom together. Remember to stay in the camera. All right, so there's our base. It's all about that base, about that base. Must be the heat getting to me. Okay, so we're going to attach this right below that score line and center it in the back. You don't want to hinder that score line because otherwise you won't be able to close your lid. And again, with you know, if you feel insecure with liquid, with the Tombow liquid glue, you're able to maneuver this. It gives you a few seconds to maneuver this, and see, as soon as you stick that down, it's gonna, with the tear and tape, it's gonna stay. So I'm just gonna try to tilt the lid so that I can get that on there, and then I can secure it on the back. And then we'll do our sides. So there we go. We have our basic little, sort of like a oversized pizza box. I looked at our pizza boxes that we do sell, and just a snitch smaller for the cookie. But if you were making your own cookies, you could probably simplify this by using the pizza box and just decorate the top. So I'm going to put the this piece on with some dimensionals, and let me grab a sheet here. So I'm just going to put that on. Yeah, come on. And don't forget, this month we've got bonus days. So if you place a $50 order, you'll get a bonus days code from Stampin Up for $5 off your purchase in August. So don't forget about that. And if you use my hostess code this month and you place at least a minimum $35 order, I'll send you the paper supplies and the ribbon and scored and whatnot, so you can make these projects too. So that's a little extra bonus. Plus, with $50 orders, I have my Mermaids rewards. It's a reward system for free purchases down the road. So I'll have all that information on my PDF sheet, and you can check it out on my blog. So let's see where the grandma part is. I'm going to stick a dimensional there, and I'm just going to put a little bit of snail on this edge so it sticks to the label. Everything's sticking. I do not do summer. Sound like Olaf, but he loves summer. Little does he know. My granddaughter loves Frozen. I think we've seen that movie, gosh, even more than I watched Downton Abbey. Something about that movie that kids love. It's unbelievable. We've watched other ones. She likes to watch. I bought the old Cinderella movie, and it's interesting to see how different the production is of the old movies versus the new ones, but it's not as interesting as, you know, the new movies. And so all she wants me to do is zip through to the part where Cinderella dances with the prince and she meets the prince, and I'm like, oh golly, she's in for a big shock. Life isn't like that. But it's nice to dream, I guess. All right, so now, oh, here I go with the array. I'm taking a mini Stampin' Dimensional, and you could use glue dots if you prefer, because you have to place these just right. Now I'm taking the pointy edge of that cut and sticking it close to the bottom of the heart so it just fits in there. So if you want to pop these up with, you know, the minis, that's the way to do it. Or you can just cut a piece off of the, you know, your regular size, cut a little piece there. That'll work as well. But it's got to be a little tiny piece, and they are hard to work with sometimes. So you see it just fits. Yeah, still sticking. Got one there. And one more heart. This project, it does take a little bit of time, but I think it's really cute and it'll be worth it. You could bake this ahead of time, knowing if you're going to have a baking day with your granddaughter or something. Or even you could put a little gift in there. So this one's going to go right there. And the last finishing touch, we're going to put some pearls. Again, back to the vintage grandmother wearing pearls. Let's see, can I use that one? Oh, you know what? Use the other end. I can use my little tacky stuff. That'll pick them up hopefully much easier. And I'm just going to stick one right in there. A couple over here. Take your pick tool, makes it much easier to grab them. Put them on. And I'm going to do one more down here. Actually, maybe I'll put it over here this time. There. All right. Oh, here we go. Last piece is on the inside. We're just going to snail that in the inside of your box. And again, this would even just make a cute little, put some tissue in there, give a little gift, besides cookies. But like I said, this was made for Grandma's cookies. I got those at Walmart in the checkout aisle, or checkout row, whatever you call that, you know, the impulse purchase section. So there you go. I hope you like that. And so come back. I have two more projects. I have my little triangular box and my grandmother's card. Don't forget the bonus days. Like I said, you spend $50 this month, you get a $5 code for next month. I also have my Christmas in September, my fall Christmas stamp stack. So that information will be available. And if you want to sign up for Paper Pumpkin for the July Paper Pumpkin, July 10th is the deadline. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back with another video. Bye-bye.